All right, we have Justin Amase. He joins me. He's to provide expert economic insight following the latest data released by the National Bureau of Statistics, which shows that Nigeria's headline inflation rate declined by 2.18 percentage points, falling to 15.15% in December 2025 from 14.45% in November 2025. That's right?
Yes.
Good. So glad to have you join me, Dr. Justin Amase.
Thank you so much.
Good, fine. Nigeria's headline inflation, like I just read there, declined 2.18%, 15.15 in December to 14.45 in November 2025. What in real terms is the significance of the inflation drop, as it were, and what it does really mean for the average Nigerian out there on the street?
Well, thank you so much. You remember that in January 2025, there was the major inflation rebasing exercise in Nigeria. And the exercise resulted in a sudden 10% drop in headline inflation. And that trend continued because that drop was essentially a product of the new methodology, the statistical methodology for calculation on inflation. You know, the rebasing brought a new methodology. It changed the basket, increased the basket, and changed the weight for each of the items in the basket. So all of that brought about a sudden drop. Now, those figures that were being reported from January to November were heavily influenced by the base year effect of the previous inflation numbers and then the methodology used, where the base year was 2009, while the new base year was 2024. So consistently over time, that base year effect kept on bringing out figures that were disconnected from the reality of prices in the marketplace. Now, by December, which was year end, the National Bureau of Statistics found out that the methodology they used, whereby inflation year-on-year calculation was based on a monthly base rather than a 12-month base. If they sustain that method of calculation, inflation in December was back to about 32%, which would have totally been disconnected from the flow. So what they did was to do another statistical adjustment to realign the base of 2004 as 2024 with a 12-year calculation period, 12 months, 12 months inflation calculating period. And they allocated 100 as the number for the base year that you use for the calculation. So that changed the inflation numbers right from January to November. As you are aware, as of January 2025, the headline inflation was 24.48%. But after this new adjustment in December, you might call it a rebasing, it changed to 27.33. So coming back to the impact is really not felt yet on the common mind. The reason is this. Basically, in spite of the numbers, what the numbers are showing is that, yes, there is disinflation. In other words, inflation is moderating as a result of the stability in some of the core drivers, especially the exchange rate.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you, I'm not stopping you. You're raising so many issues, and I don't want to get our viewers confused, including myself.
Yeah, okay.
Before I come to the drivers, what was the real purpose of changing this methodology? Is it for government to feel good? Is it for the Nigerian on the street to see government as working? what's your real objective of changing that method? Before we go to drivers and these numbers, yeah.
Yes, globally, after some years, the inflation is reversed for each country.
Okay.
And what is the purpose, as you have asked? The purpose is to capture economic activities that were not captured in the existing inflation calculation. For instance, the Nigerian economy, consumption pattern have changed significantly from that 2009 to today. A lot of people now use more of their money to buy data and so on. Information and communication sector has taken a higher share. Fintech, a lot of other activities came out that were not reflected in the original base year. So they were not capturing the reality of what is happening in the economy. So policy could not be that effective. That is the primary reason. Now, having done that, you still have to ensure that what methodology you have come up with is reflecting some level of reality.
Which it doesn't seem to be reflecting.
Yeah, and the methodology was adopted, to rebase in January, did not reflect international best practices in the calculation, especially in the best year for year-on-year inflation. So it became very necessary that they had to adjust. And that adjustment brought up inflation numbers that were closer to reality. As you can see, from that 24.48 in January, which was revised to 27.33, the inflation numbers return above, that they release now, move above 20% up to August. In other words, this new methodology actually shows that inflation was declining, but at a gradual rate, unlike what the old methodology. So now, to conclude the answer to that question, they had to change it in December again because the methodology that was utilized to bring out inflation numbers between January and November did not make it possible for them to compare inflation numbers with the previous years. And you know, if you are doing research, you need a comparative basis for those macroeconomic variables for you to get results that could be used for policy. Okay. So that was very critical.
Okay, well, I think in a way you've answered this question, talking about, well, maybe you could ask them what are the drivers behind this decline? Would you say it is policy-induced, temporary? And then see how does this affect like I'd asked that, how does this affect the ordinary Nigerian who frankly, between you and I, are not interested in these figures, but how it affects their living standards and their pockets?
Yeah, the impact is not yet felt.
When will it be felt?
The reason is this. After the reform, stability was achieved, but at higher levels of prices. The exchange rate stabilized, but instead of about 451 naira to the dollar that we had as May 2023, it is now floating around 1.5, 1.4.
All right. Doctor, I don't have all the time now to ask you, but I just want to ask you a very quick one before I let you go. What does the exclusion of Nigeria from the high-risk financial risk mean? That's one. Why was Nigeria on that list in the first instance? And how can the country remain permanently off that list? Quickly.
Well, there were issues of illicit financial flows. And of course, we all are aware of the issue of people funding Boko Haram and all those outfits that drive insecurity. So a couple of those issues, came together to put Nigeria on that list. And the present government has actually addressed quite a number of them. As you can see, the war on those who are funding Boko Haram has also been stepped up, and then the war on illicit financial flows has also been stepped up.
All right, we'll leave it there. Yeah. Well, people will question whether the war on those financing, because we don't seem to have had names of the people financing. Nobody seems to have had them or know them or brought them to book. Yeah. So people will question that. But thank you, by the way, Dr. Justin Amase, for being here to talk on this inflation matter.